Trophy up. Yeah. Hey, do y'all. Trophy up. Yeah. Hey, do y'all. Trophy up. Yo, dance when the G's up. G. Spaced out, got me geeked up. 10 toes on the west, can I beat us? You cannot. Shining every time they meet us. Rack 'em up, since 96. Yeah. Been number one in LA, something slight, that's the gist.
Hello, everyone.
So,
Welcome to episode 3 of Talking Galaxy. I'm here with Galaxy Runs LA,
what's up?
and we will be joined by Galaxy Memes later tonight. But this is what we have for now. And yeah, let's get right into it. Galaxy Runs LA.
Yeah, so first thing on the topic is Austin FC versus LA Galaxy. This obviously was last weekend, but we haven't had a podcast since previous Tuesday. So this game was a 1-1 draw, Peck with a single goal, which was a tap in on the goal line pretty much. And then, yeah, not much really to talk about this game. Starters played first 45 minutes, and then subs kind of came in, and that's when Austin got their goal. Some promising signs. I really liked Elijah Winder. He's a standout for me so far in both these games, especially this first game.
Yeah,
What do you think about Winder?
yeah. We'll talk about Wanda a lot more the second game, but I think he's shown a lot of bright flashes this preseason. I think he's proven to be. I think he'll surprise a lot of people with how much minutes he gets this year. We'll go into a little injury that happened, not a little injury, but an injury that happened a bit later into the show. But I think Elijah Wander is going to be a guy that sees a lot of minutes this season, and this is back-to-back starts for him. The only takeaway I really have from this game, I didn't put too much emphasis in the second half once most of the substitutes came in. I was kind of like, okay, disregard like anything, like any takeaways of the second half. But I thought they looked very good first half. I thought what surprised me more than anything is that even though this was preseason game, it felt like it had a lot of energy to it.
Yeah,
So I really like that. I don't know if you noticed the same thing, but I felt that this game was very high intensity, high tempo, and it's kind of unusual for a preseason game, especially our like one of our first games. That was nice to see though.
yeah. Another player I want to point out is obviously Peck. He got the goal. Obviously, it was a tapping, but he was electric all game in both these games, actually. Him and Yamane on that right side is going to be a dangerous thought for opposing teams.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
and in the Charlotte game, he was crazy as well. You can tell he's feeling himself. He's kind of pulling out the tricks, kind of like Ricky was against LAFC. He has one season that he plays great, and now he's ready to go again. It looks like.
yeah,
I remember, I forget who was talking about it, but Greg Vanney said that when Peck first came in, he's pulling out all the tricks and stuff in practice, and Vanney had to come up to him and say, "Hey, we're not on the streets anymore. You gotta tone down. We're gonna be playing in MLS." So I thought that was kind of funny.
yeah. I mean, you're looking at a guy in Gabriel Peck who's supposed to take another leap towards being a potential MVP this season. So high expectations for him coming into the season, and here you go, he gets a goal. I mean, given it was a tap in, but still, I liked the build up play in that goal, and I thought that it just shows that he hasn't lost a step really. It's like the first Coachella game, and he's already getting on the score sheet. This isn't going to be a guy I feel like it's going to hit a sophomore slump. I think the best is still yet to come from Gabriel Peck, which is really exciting when you consider how good he was last year. But he comes in with a full preseason. Last year, he didn't have much of a preseason left. If I remember correctly, I don't think he played a Coachella game last year, or at least it was coming to an end. So his first full preseason with the Galaxy. He has more time to get adapted to the United States. And I forget who said it, but it was on Instagram somewhere, I believe. We got a comment that was talking about something related to Peck that we'll go in a bit later. But overall, the point was that Peck is like speaking English now. Like this guy, I saw a Super Bowl thing from the Galaxy that they put out, who they think the Super Bowl champion was going to be, and he's talking about how he doesn't really know like about much about the Super Bowl, but he was speaking in English. I mean, I see on his Instagram stories sometimes he gets English lessons. Uh, he's been putting in the work, and I think you're going to see it year two. I think this is a guy that's really motivated to get adapted to MLS as quickly as possible, and you saw it last year. But now he's here. Now this is his season. It's his time to step up. So, yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see how Gabriel Peck does in the sophomore season. This was a good start to it.
And while we're on the Peck train, I just want to do a little show and tell. I got this at the game versus Charlotte. I pulled up to the game. I got this. I got Paintsil's autograph, and then Yoshida's. I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think you pulled up to the Charlotte game as well. What were your thoughts on the Charlotte game?
Yeah. Do we have so the second game, this is the game that I went to, was the Galaxy versus Charlotte. I thought that I've never been to Coachella. For reference, I've never been to Coachella. I've never been to the preseason game, so this was my very first time. And I see what the hype is about. I really like how it's organized and set up with the fields. It's like it's almost like watching a little like high school soccer game, but with like all of the crazy, like with all the regular like concession stands and stuff that they would have at the games. Like I got a burrito and that's super good.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was a very entertaining game. I thought that we controlled Charlotte pretty well. Obviously, they had a really good hit on their first goal that just got past Novak Mitrovic. The volley was very good. All credit to them for that. Then Maya Yoshida pulls back a header off of a corner kick, and it's like, okay, now we're scoring corner kicks. Hopefully we figured out some tactics around that this year, because I feel like we struggled on that end last year when it came to scoring on corner kicks. Like, take out anything defensively. I'm not even talking about how we defend corner kicks. I just felt like we wasted so many corners, and we had a lot of them this game, but we actually got a goal off of it. Maya Yoshida is always an aerial threat on the attacking end, and it was nice to see him bag one. And yeah, you got your signed autographs. That's awesome. I met Marco Royce for the first time, which was awesome. If you follow Galaxy Buzz on Instagram, shameless plug, you saw my story that I met Marco Royce, which was really, really like, it's just a great experience. It's so worth it for any Galaxy fan, by the way. It's about $30 for a ticket on the weekend, if I'm not mistaken, and you get to meet a bunch of the players after the game. You get to line up, meet the players, and I really enjoy it. It's such a good experience. I'll definitely have to go again. I was thinking about going tomorrow, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work with school and whatnot. So, but yeah, what do you think of the game?
Yeah, I went to the Charlotte game as well. I really like the environment. It's almost like you had a soccer tournament when you played back in the days on the big grass fields, just playing with your friends and stuff. Obviously, we're
Yeah.
not playing them, but just watching the games. Obviously, the day that Galaxy played Charlotte, it was only that game, and then Dejan Sporting Kansas City game. But I feel like it'd be way cooler when to go to a Coachella game when there's a bunch of teams playing at the same time. There's three fields stacked up there, so I think tomorrow there's a bunch of games going on. So that'd be cool. Just like just walk between each of the games just to see what's happening, get to see all the players and stuff. Yeah, obviously not on our field, but the other field was a goal fest. There's 6-0 to Minnesota, and we're playing them tomorrow. So hopefully the
Yeah.
goals don't rain in tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this game. One thing I want to point out is I think Mikovic is going to be our starting keeper. Started both our games, played the 65 minutes on, was it Sunday, and then the 45 on Sunday, I believe. Sunday and Wednesday, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a starting keeper. Another player to keep an eye on, I think, is going to be Ruben Ramos Jr. He's been starting both the games, getting a ton of minutes, looking very good. I think he played almost full 90 on Sunday, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So I think he's a up and comer that you definitely want to keep an eye on. Gonna get a lot of minutes, and then yeah, I wish I could go to more games, but my schedule just doesn't work with it. It's such
Yeah.
a cool atmosphere. I'll probably have to go back next year and see what's going on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think someone in the chat was referencing on $30 for a 2-hour drive there and back. I mean,
yeah, it was 3 hours for me.
If you're from LA, you know, it's a rough drive. all the way down the Coachella Valley, Palm Springs area. But it's, if you take the flat price of a ticket, you know what this almost reminds me of is when we played in the track and field stadium for some of the Open Cup games
Oh,
that I went to. I really dug that environment. I got to meet Diego Polenta after one of the games.
whole thing. That's sick.
Yeah, weird shout there, but Diego Polenta. It was super cool. It's nice being able to see the players up in person because if you're at the digs, obviously it's a great environment. Love the stadium. They're putting a lot of hard work into the stadium. We'll update you guys when we get the first official photos, the Galaxy release from the new stadium renovations. But from the leaks that I've seen, it looks nice. And not to discredit that, but being able to be like close in person, like you'd watch like I said, a high school game or whatnot. Uh, or like you said, it just feels like you're watching people have a kickabout. It's not so much for the result as it is just having a good vibe. I don't think the Galaxy really care, if I'm being honest, if they win these games or not. I don't. We didn't do that well last preseason. I think last season was pretty good, I would say.
Yeah.
So once again, not putting too much emphasis into the result of these games. If I'm not mistaken, that would make 2 draws and a loss in
Yeah.
preseason. Yeah, uh, the loss being in the closed door game that we didn't
Yeah.
get to watch.
NYCFC.
Yeah, besides the little uh, things NYCFC posted, the little videos of
Yeah.
the goals. But I think you're right. I think if Novak Mitrovic starts again tomorrow, I would expect he'd be the starter for the regular season. But I was very critical on John McCarthy last year at times because I felt like I honestly felt like he was part of the issue on corner kicks is that he wasn't aggressive enough. Uh, and I was advocating for Novak Mitrovic in League's Cup when he got benched that one game that he ended up requesting a trade after. But
Yeah.
um, I advocated for Novak because I felt like John McCarthy just wasn't being good enough. Like he's a good shot stopper, and we know that, but he wasn't as aggressive on crosses. But he did the business the rest of the year after that. I mean, I as critical as I've been on him, I can't really knock him. He won us an MLS Cup, and he played great in some of those games. So, uh, you know, I think it's hard to tell a guy like Novak or to tell a guy like John McCarthy um, that, hey, I know you just won us an MLS Cup, but you're gonna have to take a seat on the bench. That's tough. I don't know what you think about that, but I just thought that was interesting because if Novak Mitrovic is our starter, and it was expected that he would start at some point, and John McCarthy is a good backup, as well as JT Marcinkowski, but that's just don't you feel like that's tough? Because I know there's some teams in MLS that John McCarthy would be starting on to tell him to, hey, coming off of MLS Cup in 2022, 2024, but you're gonna have to sit on the bench again. Like it's tough, man.
Yeah. Second time it's happened to him. Now
Yeah,
that we kind of covered the defense and the midfield, I want to talk about our new striker.
yeah,
It's not official yet, but we have pictures from RM Photos over on Instagram. Shout out to him. He got this really good picture of Christian Ramirez, our new 9, or actually new number 17 to be exact. He's our new striker. He looked really good. Super athletic build. Looks like he's an absolute monster. I can't wait to see him play tomorrow. I'm assuming he's going to get the start again over Barry. Barry
yeah,
scored a goal again, or not again, but he scored his goal. But I think Ramirez deserves a start.
yeah,
Greg Vanney was saying he's been gelling with the team already. He hasn't had an official practice before this game, so it's interesting to see him get the start. But yeah, I think
yeah,
he's going to be a really good fit. Coming from Columbus Crew, playing with Cucho and what's his name? The guy from LAFC. I'm blanking. But anyway,
Rossi.
Rossi, yes. Yeah, so that little trio going there. Hopefully, he can get his trio going with Paintsil and Peck. So I'm really excited for this guy.
Yeah,
Uh, he's experienced, got a ton of goals in the league, and then we also got someone else coming in that we'll talk a bit later on. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Ramirez?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd like to introduce Galaxy memes back once again, and we'll get his take on it after this. But it was interesting. The Galaxy put out trial list number 17, I believe, on the lineup graphic, or at least when he got subbed out too. It's just funny to see because obviously this guy's not a trialist. We traded for him. There's actually been a lot of trades with a lot of interesting trades within MLS this off season with that new we paid allocation money. Just to be clear, 250K just straight up guaranteed to Columbus Crew and an additional 250K in performance based incentives for Christian Ramirez. And I like the signing. You're getting a experienced guy. He's 33, going to turn 34 this year. So definitely on the tail end of his career, and he's a SoCal native, I believe, as well. So it's nice to see, a little homecoming. I'm sure he is going to be well equipped with his family here. He used to play for the other team. If anyone remembers Christian Ramirez, but he is also an LAFC killer because I believe, dropped the brace on them in the 5-1 win that they had at the Stank this season or last season. So Christian Ramirez, he's lethal. He's a lethal goal scorer. I think a lot of people underrate this signing, honestly. I think he will be the starter day one. We'll go into the other guy that could potentially be the starter, but I think this is your guy, and I'm excited. This is a proven MLS goal scorer. This isn't someone that you're relying on making good transition to MLS. This is a guy that's here and he's gonna score goals now. And I'm really excited to see him with Joseph Paintsil and Gabriel Peck as the season goes on, and then eventually Ricky Puig. I think that'll be a lethal combination. And I thought he looked decent in this game. Obviously, I didn't know that he didn't have a practice before that, so that's kind of crazy. But coming off of a flight from Columbus, I'm sure that he was in a tough spot to get any practices in before this game. But he played, I think, 45 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he came out very stepped on for him at halftime.
but yeah, it's interesting seeing all these interleague changes. I just saw that Evander's heading to Cincinnati. Uh, little
And
little breaking news around the
Ocho
league.
Costa is going to
Yeah,
Dallas, as I
yeah,
was seeing earlier.
yeah. So you got a lot of interleague moves, and I think that's what MLS wanted by introducing the new mechanism. Is a lot of more interleague moves because normally you would never see a guy like Evander or Costa. Or even Dejan Joveljic end up back within MLS, and now you see them rotating between MLS teams. I think that's what they wanted. But Christian Ramirez, straight up just allocation money guy. Um, I'm sure he'll hit those performance-based incentives. To my knowledge, he doesn't have a long injury history, but he was a huge part of Columbus winning MLS Cup in 2023. This guy was a vital piece of that front three. Like you said, with Rossi and Cucho, he was insanely important to that team. And I think he'll fit in really well into the Galaxy. And we were talking about potential replacements last podcast for Dejan Joveljic. I think this guy does a serviceable job. Obviously, not going to be equal to Dejan Joveljic's production, I wouldn't imagine. But could you remake Dejan Joveljic in the aggregate? To go across sports here, you kind of, if any of you guys pay attention to the NFL, you saw like the Rams lose Aaron Donald, who is a huge part of the Super Bowl winning team, and then they go out and draft a bunch of rookies who equals production. You're kind of looking at the same thing here with the Galaxy and Dejan Joveljic. Yeah, you're not going to get one guy that can equal his production, but Christian Ramirez and the guy that we'll talk about later, could they equal his production in the aggregate? I feel like they could. So Galaxy memes, any thoughts about Christian Ramirez?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this deal. 13 goal contributions last season, and I think he's gonna for sure, get it up, get it higher this season. He has, good wingers such as Peck and Paintsil to provide him service, and we saw a clip of him scoring a really good goal from I forgot who's the winger in Columbus, but it's just preview of what's to come from him this season. I expect him to be starting over Nacimiento at least for a little bit. as Nascimento's only 20 years old. He's going to be coming in a U22 spot. So he's going to be the veteran. He's going to be leading us as the number 9 this season. And I'm really hopeful for this signing. It's not Dejan, but he's going to get the job done. And I'm excited for what he can do for the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to our new striker that has yet to be official as well. We got Mateus Nascimento. He's coming from Botafogo in Brazil. As Meme said, he's 20 years old, ton of upside. He actually is coming back from injury. I believe it's a hamstring injury, which is a little concerning, but hopefully it's not a major setback. He was on the bench for the previous game and played, but he has had that hamstring injury, and those could be bad. Those always come back, at least for me. So hopefully that's not a recurring issue for him and not a injury problem like we have somewhere else. We'll talk about him later, but I'm really excited about this guy. He's got a lot of flair to him. We got hopefully when he does play, we got 2 Brazilians up top. Hopefully we'll bring some Jogo Bonito to the squad. And I can't wait for this guy. He looks very promising. He actually was I think at 17 years old, he was scouted by Real Madrid, I was seeing. So I hope he lives up to his potential, and yeah, hopefully he fills in like that Dejan role, where Dejan didn't really start the start of his LA Galaxy tenant because of Chicharito. Maybe that's a similar case with him and Ramirez, and maybe he takes that step forward once Ramirez leaves or something, or next season. But it's on a 1 season loan as well, worth noting. And there's a purchase option at the end of it. Right now, Botafogo is trying to make that like purchase like a thing. They're trying to make all these little incentives to make sure that this deal does become permanent. It's not just a season-long loan. So it'll be interesting to see how this guy does, and I can't wait.
Yeah. I think it's very important to consider that this is a loan deal, and I think Botafogo is they're gonna want to see him get a lot of play time with the Galaxy, and I think he will. When you look at an injury on a player to the front three that we'll go into later, this guy I heard is someone who could play winger as well. So as much as he could play striker, I think he might also slot in at winger whenever, you look at a guy like Marco Reus, who is also injured right now. And will he be ready for San Diego? I'm not sure. Nascimento might not be ready for San Diego. I mean, he's not even announced, let alone has a P1 visa. So I would consider him a high doubt for that game, but he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to start. Proved last season that we don't need like 3 good striking options to compete at a high level. Last year, we just had Dejan and Miguel Berry. So until this guy comes in, I think Christian Ramirez can do a serviceable job. But I'd expect him to get minutes. Interesting to bring up like the Chicharito, Dejan Joveljic comparison. I think it's very good because that's our last example of like a U22 striker coming to the Galaxy. But I think this might be a tad different because Christian Ramirez might not be guaranteed the starter throughout the full season. Because when you look at a guy like Chicharito, that's a designated player. That's someone who's expected to start, expected to get minutes. And it's like, sorry, Dejan, like we tried the 2-striker experiment and it's just not, it doesn't fit into Vanny's tactics. So you're going to have to sit on the bench for a few years until Chicharito's contract's up. I don't think it's the same thing here. Christian Ramirez is on an option year regardless. So if this guy ends up becoming the guy, you just do away with Christian Ramirez next year, or at least have him take a cut so he could be a backup. Nascimento is a player I've heard a lot of praise around. He hasn't had many senior appearances for Botafogo if you look at his stats, at least starting. But he's had plenty off of the bench. I believe he's made 96 appearances total, but not many starts. So when you look at his stats and you're like, wait, this guy's not scoring many goals. Yeah, he's probably playing 10 to 15 minutes in these matches, I'd imagine. But is this someone could develop into a goal scorer? We already know that Wilkins' scouting system is very good. So I trust any player that Wilkins signs. And I think that they see a lot of potential in him. And I think they'll prove to be right. I think he'll end up being another clinical goal scorer. And yeah, I like the celebrations I've seen so far from him on his Instagram, at least. He seems like he has some iconic celebrations, which is nice because, guys like Ricky Puig, Joseph Paintsil, and all of them love a good celebration. So I think this guy will only add to that. But I think he'll develop nicely. I think he could be a starter by the end of the year. I don't know if this is a full year project. I think you'll see plenty of rotational minutes. You look at CONCACAF as well. We're going to need guys to slot in. We're going to need guys to rotate. And I think Nascimento will do a great job of being another piece that will probably start a good chunk of games for the Galaxy next year. So we'll see. Any thoughts on that, Galaxy memes?
Well, honestly, I'm just hoping it's not going to be like a Kevin Cabral situation where there's hype around this guy and he, flops massively. He can also play left wing, so I'm assuming with Joseph Paintsil out for a good amount of time, he's going to be playing the left wing and maybe Fagundes playing the 10. That's kind of how I imagine the starting lineup to be, sometime after San Diego and how all the visa gets sorted out. But he does have a lot of praise, so that's that's hopeful for us Galaxy fans to see what's going on and how he's going to do. And it is a 1-year loan, so nothing's guaranteed for him to stay, which I think is also a good thing. It kind of gives him motivation, that gets him like driven to to stay if he doesn't enjoy Botafogo. So I'm really hopeful for this move, and I just see it as something that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking on his injury history, we got not terrible injury, but we got an injury for one of our DPs. Joseph Paintsil goes down with was it a quad injury?
Yeah.
Yeah, quad injury, out for 6 to 8 weeks, reported by Tom Bogert. Really sucks. That's why he hasn't been playing. It didn't even cross my mind to even ask him when I was getting his signature. I was just so focused on the signature, I didn't even think of asking him. But yeah, he hasn't appeared in any of the games, wasn't on the bench for any of the games. Yeah, apparently came in during one of the practices. He said he felt something, and then they just didn't take any risks, and now they have a ETA of 6 to 8 weeks. So he won't be back for a while. So hopefully this Nascimento deal goes through and we have him as soon as possible, because we're going to need some depth up top. Also, we got Fagundes that can play left wing, and then Ruben Ramos Jr. is also kind of versatile and he can play on the left as well. And then hopefully with Nascimento, he also has that option of playing left wing, and he could be as threatening as Paintsil. And who knows, maybe if he's even better, we could see him getting minutes over Fagundes or something at the left wing. So something to keep an eye out for. It really sucks. Hopefully this isn't a recurring thing, because obviously Paintsil had that hamstring injury midway through last season. Now he's got a quad injury starting this season. Hopefully injuries don't keep stacking up and this is the one and only time. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get a little 2023 PTSD when I see this amount of injuries this early on. You're already without one of your designated players for a very long time in Ricky Puig, and now you're without Joseph Paintsil for 4 to 6 weeks. Obviously not like a long-term thing. And, if there is to put a positive spin on it, if there is a time to be injured, at least it's at the start of the season and not midway through or at the end. So just a Paintsil quad injury, it's a massive blow, honestly, because now you're going to be without 2 of your 3 designated players for 2 months of the year. For 2 months of the start of the year, you want to get off to a fast start if you're the Galaxy. You're the defending MLS Cup champions. You don't want to get off to a slow start, and losing Joseph Paintsil sucks. But I will say, I think Diego Fagundes is a guy who's more than ready to step up. In his interviews before the season, he's talking about how he wants to be an all-star. That's his goal, to be an MLS all-star. He won an MLS Cup. Now he wants to be an all-star. You have the perfect opportunity. You have the perfect opportunity to be an all-star now. Given that Joseph Paintsil is injured, as much as that sucks and hurts the Galaxy because he's such a crucial piece to this team, Diego Fagundes could definitely use this to, his advantage of getting more minutes than he saw last year. Diego Fagundes is making a lot of money. He's making over $1 million. He's taking up a lot of allocation money, and he's a very serviceable backup. But these are the scenarios that you pay him money for. You want to see him slot in, and you want to see him do very well. So unfortunate to see with Paintsil. He's slowly like becoming a player that picks up a bit of unfortunate knocks and leg injuries as the season goes on. I think a lot of that has to do with his pace. He's a very fast guy. Obviously, was the fastest player in the world, I believe, last year. The fastest soccer player in the world, and it really takes a toll on your legs. And I think you're seeing that a lot. Last year was the hamstring, I believe, and now you're seeing a quad injury, and it just you really feel for him. But any additional comments on that, Galaxy memes?
I mean, it's just really unfortunate that he's got another injury, but we also have to take into consideration he hasn't had like the break as like the other players have had. When we first got him, he was still in season with Belgium in the Belgian league, and he came straight over here and did another full season. So it's he's gonna get injuries. Unfortunately, that's just how it is with the minutes he's been getting. I think he's gonna be a player that's gonna continue getting knocks? Not really. I just don't think he's that type of player. I think when he comes back, he's gonna be good for a good amount of time. Hopefully he doesn't get another injury, by Leagues Cup or anything later in the season. But this just shows why we need to have strong depth, especially in the wing, something that we lack. This is why I think Galaxy are going over for Nascimento, hopefully like to cover the wing spot. But I also think Diego Fagundes is ready to take on this role as a starting left wing. He's a veteran. He's a veteran in the league. He knows when to show up. He's giving himself praise, saying he's ready and all this type of stuff. So as unfortunate it is to have Paintsil injured, I'm not too worried because I'm hopeful that Diego Fagundes can keep up the good form and produce assists and goals over the season.
Yeah, I want to open this up to the chat real quick. Who do you think will be starting left wing? Do you think it's going to be Fagundes? Do you think it's going to be Nascimento? Or do you think it's going to be Ruben Ramos Jr. or even Marco Reus?
Yeah, I think interesting layer to this to talk about is the fact that Marco Reus is actually injured. A bit concerning that we haven't heard anything on it yet, considering that we didn't really think that this was going to be anything noteworthy. They're just like, oh, they kept him out of game with Coachella because he picked up a knock. Like, he'll be back next game, Joseph Paintsil. And we haven't heard anything on Marco Reus. Will he be playing tomorrow? Hopefully. I hope he just turns up tomorrow and everything's okay with him. But he is a player with a very long injury history, Marco Reus. And I think the question of who starts at left wing, I mean, if you don't have anyone at attacking midfielder, then you might have to start Diego Fagundes at cam. But another interesting layer to this is, can Elijah Winder start at central attacking midfielder? I think he can. I honestly think Elijah Winder might be a starter for some of these games that Joseph Paintsil's out, if the Marco Reus injury is a bit more serious too and keeps him out for like a month or something, which hopefully it's not. We won't speak on that like it is, but if it ends up being something, then you might have a guy like Elijah Winder also step up at cam. And then you saw in MLS Cup, the Galaxy didn't want to play Diego Fagundes in the midfield. You saw it towards the end of last year, and we're actually undefeated when Diego Fagundes plays in the midfield, to my knowledge. But I don't think he wants to play midfield. I think Diego Fagundes wants to play winger. So if you're looking at Joseph Paintsil being injured, we'll see what the chat says, and maybe you guys have a different perspective of this, but I feel like we're going to see Diego Fagundes starting at wing for as long as Paintsil's injured, because that's his preferred position. That's where he wants to be. But I think you might see Elijah Winder start in the midfield for San Diego. I believe it was Griffin that we're talking to a couple of days ago during one of the preseason games, and he was talking about how, also he feels like Elijah Winder could be a guy who can start for the Galaxy potentially for as long as Paintsil's out. The Galaxy like to scout players like Nascimento who can play a lot of positions. So Winder, who's more of a box-to-box midfielder, I'm sure can play attacking midfield, or you just run a 4-3-3. But I think it just sucks to see Paintsil. It sucks to be without two designated players, because now you just got to hope and pray that Gabriel Peck stays healthy. Because if Gabriel Peck picks up a knock within, a preseason game, or anything. Like, you're looking at 0 designated players. That's why I say I get 2023 flashbacks a bit here, is because you've already seen Ricky Puig get injured. You're seeing this Joseph Paintsil injury. Marco Royce is currently injured for who knows how long. Like, I really hope that this season we can stay healthy, because last year we got very fortunate by not having this stuff happen a lot. Like, and now we've already dealt with more injuries this year than we have last season, and this season hasn't even started yet. Like, but Galaxy Memes, you're absolutely right. This guy's been playing for so many games in a row. I feel bad. Like, the one time he was supposed to get a long break was the off season, and we end up having like a really short off season by winning MLS Cup. Like, this off season is going to end up being like, I believe, double the break that we had between Minnesota and Colorado in the playoffs. The whole MLS off season for us is double the break in the playoffs. That it's going to lead to stuff like this when guys have to get on the field like a month after we win MLS Cup. You know, Paintsil went back to Ghana for the off season, but it's not enough time. It's not enough time when you play over a year and a half straight of just play, start. This guy was a starter for Genk. Like, he was starting crucial matches for the Galaxy. Like, he was starting all the games for us, and he was starting a lot of matches for Genk, and it just adds up and it takes a toll. And I really hope this guy gets a break at a point, because it's starting to hamper his body a lot, as it would anyone, I feel like. Names?
I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate, but back to what the chat was saying though about the starting lineup, and I do agree with them saying that Winder is going to be at the 10 spot. You know, what I've seen from him at the preseason has been really good. Nothing but praise for him, to be honest. And you know, Fagundes does seem like he does want to play the left wing spot. So if he wants to take on that spot, you know, might as well just give it to him. We don't really have anyone at that level to compete with him at the left wing, so might as well just put him there and, you know, put hope and trust into Winder starting off the season. I think he's going to be good just there, especially with Sergio and Sanabria backing him up in the midfield.
I think another shot for the 10 is Ruben Ramos Jr. He started both the games, played 45 minutes on Wednesday and full 90 on Sunday. He's looking pretty promising. I thought everything apart from his finishing product has been spot on. He's getting all the right positions. Just lacking that clinical touch that you kind of need as a 10, that kind of Ricky Puig had. He's getting that positioning down. He just needs that finishing product. And then another 10 that I'm kind of looking at is, I think if Fagundes drops in, he could do that. But also, what's it called? Christian Ramirez, he could also play the 10. He kind of played like as a false 9 when he was at Columbus. So that's also an option if we want to play with almost like a false 9 and then another 9. Obviously, the two striker formations don't really work in Vanny's tactics, but if we do get pretty like slim in those positions, Christian Ramirez can drop into that, and I bet he could play a role and do a good job in there. So that's another thing to kind of just think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Correct me if I'm wrong, but can Christian Ramirez also play winger, if I'm not mistaken? Or is he
I
just...
could, but I prefer he's a big body, so you want that guy usually in the 9 area.
Yeah, I just I had this in my head for some reason that Christian Ramirez could also play winger, but I mean, that could be completely wrong. But I want to open this segment up to questions from the chat. We'll take about 5 questions and then we'll move on to Leagues Cup. But yeah, send any questions that you have in, and you could address it to any person. If you want to, you know, tag Galaxy Runs LA, he'll answer the question, or we could just rotate in and out of answering questions. But yeah, it doesn't have to be Paintsil related. It could be anything. So I think we have our first question from newbie is can Winder play, or is Winder a cam or a winger?
I think he's more of a box to box than a winger or even a 10. I'm sure he could do a job and play at the 10, but I think he's more of a box to box. Obviously, you got Sanabria and Sergio, and I guess Davis is kind of box to box. He's more of a 6, but those guys can all play in that little 6 to 8 role. So I don't think he's more of a 10, but I think all those guys could play a 10 in a pinch if needed.
Yeah, he said, or can they play multiple positions? Yeah, he can play multiple positions, I'm sure. You're right. I think he's a box-to-box midfielder. I don't see Winder as a winger whatsoever. But I think he could also play cam. I don't think he could play on the wing, but I think if you're looking at the midfield, I think he'd play box-to-box with cam and maybe Galaxy memes. If you have any insight over here on Elijah Winder position.
Well, yeah, I agree. He's more of a box to box. I'm not pretty sure he's not a winger though. I don't know where that came from, but he is more of a box to box, if anything. Not even a 10. But I have another question though from Sean. Do you see Sean Davis starting versus San Diego?
No chance.
No.
Hopefully, get to see some Sanabria minutes tomorrow, and I think that'll just lower him in the pecking order. Because Sanabria has warmed up the whole game. Felt kind of bad for him. Didn't even get in the game. So hopefully, he gets in the game tomorrow. And yeah, so I think so our starting midfield, I think at least later in the season should be Sanabria, Cerrillo, and Fagundes. I think Davis. I think Ruben Ramos Jr. I think Royce, and I think Parente, Lepley, all those guys are going to be coming off the bench. I don't think they're starters.
Yeah, I think it'll be up to if Marco Royce is available. If Marco Royce is not available for San Diego, I think you'll see my prediction. We'll have like a full predicted lineup out in our game preview of San Diego. Next podcast will be the one previewing San Diego. Also, quick little plug, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast if you're not subscribed yet. Turn on notifications so you can watch whenever we release a new episode. We're always here Tuesdays at 8. But I think our midfield 3 against San Diego, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Marco Royce is not playing. If he is, then I'll completely scrap that and he'll be starting. But I think it'll be Cerrillo, Sanabria, and Winder, if I had to guess. I think Fagundes will be at wing instead of attacking mid. I think he wants to play winger, so that's where he'll end up. And I think Greg Vanney playing Gaston Bergman in MLS Cup over Diego Fagundes in the midfield, although they play drastically different midfield type positions. So I could see how that lined up just with playing the Red Bulls. But I also think that, Diego Fagundes is a guy who wants to play his natural position. He's getting paid the big bucks to play his natural position. You saw, we have on the screen right here, just a Paintsil. Play striker a lot. These guys who get paid good money. They'll play different positions, but they want to play their actual role. And if Fagundes wants to be an all-star, I see it at winger, not attacking midfielder. But next question from Galaxy in 2025: who looked best in Coachella so far? Who's your guys' standout?
I think unexpected standout is Winder. He's been kind of bossing the midfield, and I think obviously superstar is Peck. Just been bossing it's a nightmare for their every team's left back when they see Paintsil on the right wing running at him at full speed. Like, I don't wish that upon anyone. That's just scary. He runs at so much pace and he has such close control. Like, you're just not getting off him. He's gonna just run past you. He's got the flair to kind of just breeze by you as well. I don't know. He's got everything to have all the skills and all the keys to become a successful player in Europe. So whenever he does make that move to Europe, I think it's going to be good for him in his career.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm not going to go hipster with the pick. I think it's Gabriel Peck. I think he's not missed a step since the season ended. He's a guy who wants to go to Europe after this year and will likely get his move to Europe. And he has a point to prove after last year. How high is his value going to skyrocket after this year? Well, okay. First of all, to answer this question, it's Peck, but the unexpected, like you said, Winder. Galaxy memes, do you have any other opinions on that?
Not really.
Okay.
Obviously.
Okay. All right. I'll go into a different question that I actually had for you guys. Is that gosh, that threw away my train of thought so much. I don't know what's going. I don't know what's going on with him.
I think you're thinking something about Peck possibly, because you're talking
Yeah,
about him.
yeah. Oh, how high do you think Gabriel Peck's transfer value is after this year if he inevitably makes his move to Europe?
I think he goes for around 22 million.
I fully agree. I think it'll be around anywhere from 20 to 25 million dollars. I think you could see him go for after this year. But I think there'll be a sell-on clause like you saw with John Duran and the Chicago Fire. I think if Peck ends up bouncing around in Europe, the Galaxy can make a real profit off of that too. You saw John Duran go to I think it was Al Hilal
Al
and
Nassr,
Al
Ronaldo's team.
and Ronaldo's team in the Saudi league. They made a good profit. Chicago, they made 7.5 million, I believe. It was $75 million transfer fee, but they got a 10% sell-on clause. So I think we will see him go for 20 to 25 million, but I think there'll be a sell-on clause and I think there'll be incentives. He might break that John Duran number for the largest transfer fee outbound in MLS history when it's all said and done. But Galaxy memes transfer.
I do think he's gonna, probably be the most expensive transfer out of MLS. We also have to pay attention to the Brazilian tax. That's always something that everybody talks about, how Brazilian players are super high tax. And someone in the chat said, let me read it back in the chat real quick. No one will ever pay more than 25 for an MLS guy, and I want to disagree with that. I really think Peck is probably going to be, someone that's going to go 25, maybe 27 million. It's a big shout, but I think he has the caliber to go for that much, and he definitely has the potential to do it. He is also Brazilian, so there's that tax that you have on the Brazilian guys. So
Yeah.
if anybody in the league can go for that much, it's going to be Peck.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think overall transfer fee will be over 25 million, but I don't think the initial fee will be 25 million or over with that sell-on clause. And then going into our next topic, we're gonna be talking about Leagues Cup. Our schedules got dropped. First we got LA versus Tijuana. Cholos have been doing pretty good this season actually. We got Efrain Alvarez and then Joe Corona on that team. Could be a little homecoming for them. That's on July 31st. And then we got Galaxy versus Cruz Azul. They're also one of the top teams in Mexico. That's on August 3rd, it looks like. And then finally, it's LA Galaxy versus Santos Laguna on the 7th. So those are our three opponents. So in the group stage, or the open phase, I believe they call it, you play three teams from the opposing league. So Liga MX in our case. And then from that, the top four teams with the most points from MLS move on to the knockout stage of the Leagues Cup. And then it depends on however many Liga MX teams points that goes into the team that we play. So it's kind of confusing. I'm sure we'll get more like reassurance of like what it is. I'm sure as we go along, we'll get to see how it works and it'll become more clear. But that's my understanding of it so far.
Yeah. I'll just I want to say that I feel like every time I just see a really confusing decision by Leagues Cup to make a new format change, it makes me think like, what is this competition still doing? Like I don't like Leagues Cup, and then the games hit, and you're like, wait, this is entertaining. Like I feel like the only thing that saves Leagues Cup, its only redeemable trait, is that the games are really entertaining. So I think it'll be interesting to see these games at Dignity Health Sports Park. In my opinion, I feel like we got a tough schedule for being placed in. They placed us into three groups, I believe, and theoretically, if you're in the tier 1, like we were, you were supposed to get an easier schedule. This doesn't look very easy to me. Like you said, Tijuana. I didn't know Joe Corona was still playing for them. Actually, I thought I thought last I heard he was in USL, but that might have been a different Galaxy
I'll
player.
fact check it right now. For some
I
reason, that's
know.
what pops in my
Yeah,
mind.
I know Efrain Alvarez has actually been playing pretty well, which is interesting to me. Because not a fan favorite, not a fan favorite player. He fell out of favor for the Galaxy. He had his opportunity to start. He's still very young, but I'm happy to see him balling out at Tijuana. So Cruz Azul, obviously a Mexican powerhouse team, and Santos Laguna is decent in their own respect. I don't follow Liga MX too much, so if I'm wrong on any of this,
I think Santos are last place in the Liga MX. I might be wrong though, but
Okay.
I think they're dead
I
last
got-
right now.
I got the table pulled up right now. So Tijuana is 16 out of 18th, so they're actually not doing good. They got 1 win out of 6 games,
Really?
and Santos is 0-6. So
What?
yeah, and then Cruz Azul is in 4th place. Obviously, they got Matty Bogusz from LAFC. That's a little storyline to keep an eye out for him. So yeah.
Do Cruz Azul still have Antuna? Do they still have Antuna?
No, Antuna's and Tigres.
Oh, okay. Because I remember when Antuna went to Cruz Azul, I was like, okay, that's interesting to see a former Galaxy player play for Cruz Azul. I don't really follow Liga MX, but I don't know. How do you guys feel about this new format? I don't like it. I really don't like it, honestly.
Well, to be honest,
think-
I really. You want to go or me?
No, it's you go. I'll go after.
Well, to be honest, I really kept up with like the format. I don't really keep up with Leagues Cup as a whole. I think it's kind of like a pointless tournament. It's just like a tournament, in the middle of both leagues. And honestly, I really just hope that we just get rotation into those games. I don't really care about the results, and that might be something like people are like 50-50 on. Some people do want to see wins. Some other people just want to see rotations to prevent the starting 11 from getting injured. And I'm with them. I don't want to see like Peg going into a game and getting injured and being out for the rest of the season where we could have played someone that needs the rotational minutes. So it's just another tournament for me. I don't really think it's that important, so I could care less, to be honest.
And then we're talking about fixture congestion being a big problem. We got 3 games in the span of 8 days. That doesn't get any worse than that. They're all at Dignity Health Sports Park, worth mentioning, which is good. It's no travel, but I mean, these games would be tense. League MX games they're high paced, they're fast. I'm sure they're gonna take us to it. They're gonna play fast. They're gonna play hard, like they always do. These games are always tough. You always have that U.S. Mexico rivalry kind of when you see MLS versus League MX teams. Then you got the homecoming of Efrain Alvarez. I'm sure he's gonna want to get a goal. So these games are gonna be tough. Cruz Azul is a very competitive team. They're always up there in League MX. These are gonna be tough. And then right after that, we got MLS right back after. I forget what the next game is after this, but like there's no stopping.
Yeah. I actually heard that they weren't stopping MLS play this year, which is really nice to hear because it sucked. It sucked so much when there was a Leagues Cup break in the middle of the year, and then everyone wonders why is there like a 3-week break in the middle of the playoffs. It's because they decide to have this tournament take a month. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't care that much about Leagues Cup. Like, it's not that important to me. I think I honestly my prediction that we went over, I think on the first episode, was that we end up winning Leagues Cup, and that's our only trophy we win this year. I don't agree with that prediction anymore because this format is whack. You're telling me only 4 teams from MLS move on to the next round? We were supposed to get a bye into the round of 16 and skip the whole group stage. We were supposed to skip the whole group stage if it stayed to the old formatting. We win MLS Cup, and that's when they decide to change it. I honestly, I can't stand Leagues Cup because every time I begin to be like, okay, this is a serious tournament, they do something like this. And like, I know the games will be entertaining because I feel like the best part about it is that in these games, they can't end in draws. Obviously regular season matches need to end in draws, I like the fact that we can see shootouts like we saw last year. We knocked out. We won a shootout. We won a shootout. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
We actually won a shootout. I like that about Leagues Cup. But outside of the actual like games itself, like this would be so much in my opinion, this would be a legitimate tournament if like the formatting wasn't like this, if they just overhauled the whole formatting, but more importantly, we need to play in Mexico too, in my opinion. I don't you can't count it as a legitimate trophy when it's set up for Liga MX to fail. That's why you've seen the two finals that have been held of Leagues Cup have involved two MLS teams, but CONCACAF Champions League, very rarely do MLS teams win it. One since 2000, and that was the Sounders before the Galaxy won it in 2000. But it like, and then Leagues Cup, MLS teams are winning it because if you have to play every game on the road, if you're a Liga MX team, you're bound to lose. So I just feel like the formatting makes it a illegitimate trophy. I feel like if they put some effort into actually overhauling it and playing in Mexico and making it even like worth following along, because you're telling me that the players are expected to know what this format means. Like the fans don't. Like the fans don't know what's going. The average fan has no clue what's going on. Like if you go to these games, I'm sure the people at these games are gonna be like, yeah, I don't know. Like by the Santos Laguna games, it could be. They might be like, I don't know. It might be an elimination game. It might not be. Nobody knows because nobody knows what's going on with this formatting. I don't like it. But that's my tangent. What are your guys' thoughts on Leagues Cup formatting itself?
Honestly, it could be a blessing in disguise. There's 36 teams, 19 MLS, 19 Liga MX. 4 teams go through from each league. So if we get knocked out, I'm not fussed. Like less games, we already have a ton of injuries, and the season hasn't even started. So I can't imagine deep into the season how many injuries we're going to have. So it could be a blessing in disguise. Maybe we, worst comes to worst, we lose all 3 games. Could care less. This trophy means nothing to me. I think that uh, obviously we played 3 games. Hopefully that's all. Because only 4 teams go through, so maybe we don't have to worry about this, and it's not a big problem. We can just carry on with MLS and then CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yeah. Names?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's just a money grab tournament at the end of the day. I wouldn't really care if we lose all 3 games. I mean, I don't think the fans should care either. I mean, if they want to see more games, and it also means like, the likelihood of more injuries. So, I mean, there's that. But I don't really care if we don't advance at all.
Yeah. I totally on the same board. But if you do stumble into advancing, you would expect the Galaxy go for it for being 3 games away from another trophy if we do happen to advance. But only 4 out of 19 MLS teams advancing doesn't put a lot of confidence into. What I will say is that I feel like after this tournament, you might see Ricky Puig back. If I had to put a time frame on when Ricky Puig comes back, I feel like sometime in August makes sense to me. Maybe September. If there's some setbacks or it just takes a little more time, it's hard to predict an ACL recovery. But I feel like after this tournament, obviously we're not going to risk him in Leagues Cup. Like this is not the tournament to bring him back for. But after it, you might see Ricky Puig play, which would be pretty exciting. So yeah, I don't know. I can't drag myself to care about Leagues Cup, honestly, with the formatting being as wacky as it is. But we'll transition into our next topic now, which is Martin Cáceres. Galaxy runs LA. You want to go into it?
Yeah, so I was looking on Twitter this morning, and then I see a bunch of stuff saying Libertad. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's a Paraguayan team, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they signed him on a 1-year deal through the 2025 season. I believe total LA Galaxy reported that he was going to retire, but that is not true. He's playing 1 more year. He's got 1 more season left in him. We'll see how far he goes. And yeah, it's good to see him still playing. In the announcement photo, he had like a little gash under his eye. It's kind of weird. I was like, dang, did him and Garanga go at it one more time before he left or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just nice to see him find a new club after his injury. I think, like you said, there were rumors of him retiring, but it's nice to see him still being able to play at this age and be able to transfer to a club. It is a little, you know, he's able to go back to South America, I believe. So that's a good move for him. I'm sure he'll be able to be closer to family. Has me blocked on Instagram for some reason.
Same here.
Yeah, it
What's
has
up with
Galaxy
that?
with LA blocked. I always thought that was weird because I don't think I've ever interacted with them in my
Yes, me neither.
life.
So weird.
But he's a good locker room guy. The team loved him last year, especially Ricky Puig. They had that whole South American friend group in the locker room last year. The whole team's like a family, but Martin Casas was the leader. He was a really good veteran when he was first brought in. He was a pretty good anchor in that back line. What he has left in his career, I don't think is much, but be able to go back to South America for a little reunion before retirement. We'll see how good he is after his injury, but I'd be a bit surprised if you see him playing anytime soon because I feel like he's still recovering from that Achilles, if I'm not mistaken. That's usually a bit longer term of an injury. So signing an injured player is interesting unless he's back and recovered and he's ready to start making progress onto the field. Yeah, congratulations to Martin Casas on his move to
Libertad.
Libertad.
Yeah.
Alex, your names? Any thoughts?
Hey, if Unk want to go another year, then let Unk go another year. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
for
this guy
sure.
hasn't played a game since the last League's Cup, so that'd be interesting to see how he does and if he's even fit. So something to keep an eye out for if you do love El Pelado. And going into our final topic of the podcast, Lucas Schnabber is official, and he also has officially leaked our jersey.
Yeah,
I really like it. I can't lie.
these guys.
Jerseys dropped this week. We don't know exactly when as of now, but I like it. I like the colors. I like how the name plate is in gold. I think that's a cool little touch. And another thing to point out is we got a new sleeve sponsor with RBC Wealth Management. That's a MLS sponsor, so that's probably why that came about. Yeah, what do you guys think of the jersey?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I was just gonna say that photo is quick to get erased from his social media after I'm sure the Galaxy contacted him. We're like, hey, that kit's not out yet. That wasn't supposed to be out yet, but you see him repping the kit, and I really like it. I stood by the fact that I think this was going to look better when it was on players, and I think you see it here, and especially the authentic version of this kit is nice. With the star, with the 6-star on top as always. But I like the short combo too. I like that. I like the kit and the shorts combo. I think it fits very well. Sanabria was rumored to become a Galaxy player for probably over a month now. So this was very expected. It was a very slow cooker in terms of actually getting him in, but he's here now and he's official. He is a Galaxy player, so now we can start talking like he is one. And yeah, just more than anything I took from this announcement was that the kit's nice. The authentic is nice. I'll definitely be repping the authentic version of this kit, and we'll see when the jersey launch comes out. We might see more info on that in the next few days on when the jersey officially comes out. And yeah, will you guys be getting the new kit, Memes?
Yeah, I'm gonna be buying the new kit. It looks really clean. At first, I was like a little skeptical when the first leaks dropped, but seeing it on a player actually made it seem like dope. So I'm gonna definitely cop it.
Yeah, and I got a question for you guys. Are you guys like a nameplate person? Do you guys get names on the back of your jerseys?
Yeah,
And
I
then
can't.
what do you guys get on the back? What do you think you're gonna get?
I like to pick like I don't like to pick basic ones. That being said, I do have a Ricky Page one because there's some players you just gotta get. Um, like I have a Jalen Neal one because I like Jalen Neal a lot. Obviously, didn't age too well with him being a Montreal player now. I actually had a kit curse going for some time of me getting players who ended up leaving the Galaxy the year after. Jalen Neal continues that curse, but I'm leaning towards Edwin Cerrillo right now. If I had to say, I really like Edwin Cerrillo. You got the number change, number 6, Ricky Puig's old number. I really vibe with it. But if not, Maya Yoshida, because if I'm not mistaken, it comes with Japanese lettering on it. Am I right in that?
I think that's an option, yeah.
I really like that. I would love to have a Maya Yoshida kit with Japanese lettering on it. So probably Yoshida or Surya. I like this players. Paintsil's an outside shout. That's I Paintsil's probably my favorite Galaxy player. If I had to pick a favorite, I love them all. But if I have to pick a favorite, it's just a Paintsil. But and memes, you don't get names on your kits.
No, I never have, but I mean, this season it might change. I'm stuck between two. I might get a Puig jersey this year or a Garces jersey. So I'm stuck between those two. I might need a pick soon.
Yeah.
I think I saw you this Sunday. You're wearing this community kit with Cabral on the back. Memes or not memes, Buzz. Hopefully, I think you should continue that curse and get a Zavaleta jersey.
Okay. Zavaleta hate is not tolerated. I will die by Eric Zavaleta, not because I think he's a great player, but I think he's good for his value. But I am more than anything a Kevin Cabral truther. You can come at me all you want in the comments. I will be here and I will defend Kevin Cabral with my life because that is my all-time favorite soccer player of all time. It's Kevin Cabral because when he was being hated on, Jody and I, Cabral's son and I on Twitter were on the front lines defending Kevin Cabral. We still love Kevin Cabral, so I proudly rep that community kit. Up Kevin Cabral, man.
Did you ever get any interaction with him? Ever talk to him? Any DMs?
I met him and Grandsir at the same time. I had the little French connection. I have the photo that none of you guys are allowed to see because I looked a lot different 2 years ago. A lot younger, but I met Kevin Cabral, and that was like the peak moment of me in life. Kevin Cabral and Grandsir standing beside me. I was in heaven. I have a Cabral sign. That jersey is Cabral signed. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure it might have worn off actually because I was looking for it. I was looking for it a couple of days ago, and I couldn't find a signature, and I was like even at Coachella when I was looking, I was trying to get the signature players at a Sharpie, and the ink just stopped working. And then I was like, great, I was like, great, of course. I brought 2 Sharpies and both of them didn't work, so I was like, okay. But I love getting signed jerseys. It's always been my thing because I like picking a player to rep. I think Sanabria being number 8 also is cool. Taking Mark number, I like that a lot. I knew number 8. But yeah, we'll transition into the final. Anything people want to say in the chat? But I have a question that we didn't get to earlier. Who's gonna start more games, Nelson or Julian Ade?
Right now, I'm more on Nelson's side. I don't think Ade has been cutting it. Being for real, I think Nelson's been playing better, and obviously Nelson ended off the season on a high with the MLS Cup.
Yeah.
I think he continues that until he loses it. Until Ade can prove that he deserves a spot, I don't think he gets it. And I have no problem starting Nelson with the way he's been playing.
Yeah, I think if there's anything this preseason has been telling is that maybe Novak Mitrovic and John Nelson will be our starters for the year, which is a bit of a surprise. I believe you posted it on your account, on your story earlier, Galaxy Runs LA. there seems to be a lot of interest circulating around Julian Ade and River
Oh
Plate.
yeah.
Could we see Julian Ade be a River Plate player? It's very possible, because if the Galaxy look at preseason, they're like, John Nelson's our starter. Then you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing having Julian Ade take up a U22 spot to be a backup then? And I'm sure there's some profit to be made. This is a young Argentine player. So yeah, it'll be interesting to monitor over the next few days. I feel like you could see something pop up about Julian Ade potentially heading to River Plate or somewhere else in South America or Europe. I think could very much well be on the cards here now that John Nelson seems like he's the guy, which is I like to see it. I like John Nelson a lot. So yeah.
And just to touch on what you were saying earlier about Outlet to River Plate, I just pulled up my post, and so River Plate was initially interested in Aude being like one of their top three targets. Their top target was Lucas Esquivel, who was playing in the Brazilian league with Atlético Paranaense, I believe, and that those negotiations just broke down. So it's between him and some other person. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but if Aude is top option, I don't see why we don't sell him. He's not starting, free up the U22 slot, and bring in maybe a winger if Paintsil's out for an extended amount of time or something.
100%. Yeah, memes.
So back to John Nelson, I do think he's going to be starting this year. He left the season on a high. He was really good. Do I want to sell out of it? Not really. I think we need that depth in the defense, and others still good. He's not terrible. He's not bad, but Nelson did win that spot, and I would want to see Nelson moving forward because he's pulled up really good games like to end the season. So I don't see a reason why to bench him starting this new season. I feel like it's more Alda's part to win it back than have Nelson just being benched for no reason. So I think it's up to Alda to win the spot back. For right now, I want to see Nelson start the season and just keep going forward. That's all I gotta say. Yeah.
Do you think a U22 player is worth being a backup though? I think it's the question, because we're getting a lot of people in the chat like, why not both? I think the important thing here is that U22 spots are supposed to be starters. Those are supposed to be like good value rising potential players that are starters, or at least getting a good chunk of minutes like Nascimento will. Not that Ade won't get a good chunk of minutes, but that's a left back spot. And I have a source that tells me that maybe the Galaxy are looking at a third potentially starting striker option. More so looking towards the summer for that. But I feel like you could definitely see Julian Ade head to River Plate or somewhere else, because if this guy's not going to be the starter, which he hasn't been in these 2 preseason games, they're just going to get rid of him, and we'll bring in another capable MLS left back. But I think they put a lot of trust in John Nelson, and if he could repeat last year, I don't have a single problem with that. And another question: is our roster done, or are you guys expecting any more changes?
I just think you want to go.
No, all you.
I think Nascimento is like the final piece, at least for this window. Summer, maybe we see Alda leave. I'm not too sure about that though. That's just circulating with all the rumors of River Plate and all that. That's the only one I see leaving in the summer, to be honest. If that were to happen though, I do see another player coming in. Do I think it's going to be a backup left back? No. But I'm not sure. I think the roster right now is done, but for the summer, things can change. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think if Aude is going to leave, it's going to be in the winter, because River Plate needs to replace or get a new left back in, because their starting left back left. That's the whole reason why Aude has kind of been linked to them. So if he's going to leave, he's going to leave now. And I believe if he does leave, we're not going to be done. We're going to try to find that replacement left back. But I think after Nascimento's signed, I think our roster is solid. I think we have a good roster into the season. And then if Aude does leave, I do think we get that backup, because I don't think we go into the season with one left back and then have a makeshift Cuevas at left back.
I agree. I think if Ade leaves, I don't think, maybe a bold take, I think they wait on that U22 spot until the summer. I think if you're looking at the Galaxy and the flexibility that you have for the summer, I think there will be another move though, but I think it'll be for a backup left back. We got Marco Farfan, Shouts from Dallas. He would be a good backup fullback. But I think when you look at the U22 replacement, the target that I think they're looking for is in the summer, more of a summer transfer, a guy that they're really, really, really high on. I think they'll just wait on the spot and use it in a better position like striker. But it'd be interesting, honestly, if the Galaxy carried 3 starting caliber strikers, because we'll carry 3 with Miguel Berry obviously being, not starting caliber. But if you bring a guy in the summer, you would have Ramirez, Nascimento, and by the way, this is still speculation, so I won't say for sure either way that we're gonna get another striker, but that's just what I've been hearing. If you get another striker in here, that could mean that Christian Ramirez is maybe a bit more of a short-term option for the Galaxy. He's on a contract year. He could absolutely be a short-term option, and then they bring in a U22 in the summer. You get half of the season with the U22 being like the third string-ish. And then you move on from Ramirez after the season. And you're looking at 2 U22 strikers up top that they're very high on. So yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree, but I just think our U22 spot, if Ade leaves, will be in the summer. And yeah, any last comments? Any last thoughts, guys?
Good.
We're good.
All right. As for me, I am LA Galaxy Buzz on Instagram, LA Galaxy _Buzz, and Galaxy Runs LA.
Yeah, Galaxy Runs LA. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Galaxy Runs LA.
Nonchalant LA Galaxy memes.
All right. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks to everyone tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to make sure that you tune in to next week. Tuesday at 8 will be our official preview of San Diego. And yeah, thank you, everyone.
2